Marsh. I am the owner of M Lounge in Chicago. This is an intimate jazz club. We do live music during the week, and I'm also a real estate broker for the last 18 years.
My name is Mazek. I'm a real estate attorney and owner of Mazek Law Group at 3805 North Lincoln in Chicago.
Michael, what is a short sale?
Well, a short sale is a term that's much more popular these days, but essentially it's when a bank accepts less money on their loan in exchange for selling the property. So in most transactions prior to the recent economic troubles, a short sale would essentially require a seller to bring more money to the closing, which isn't, in these days, it simply can't be done. So the bank generally will just waive its lien so that the property can be sold, and then the seller moves on.
Okay. And why would the bank accept less money?
Well, a financial hardship is a concern for the bank because then they're not going to be able to pay, or the seller won't be able to pay down the road. So they want to make sure that they deal with this as early as they can, and especially if the seller is willing to move or wants to sell their property and no longer deal with the stress and difficulty financially of the mortgage, they're willing to waive their loan in exchange also for not having to sell the property themselves. If the seller is willing to and can engage an agent to sell the property, then the bank doesn't have to do that because typically banks aren't in the business of selling real estate.
Exactly. And what are the drawbacks for the homeowner?
Well, a short sale isn't a right. So in many cases, sellers found out, especially in 2013, that because property values increased, that banks were willing to counteroffer buyers of short sales, or in some cases just reject lowball offers and things of that nature. So sellers found themselves in the position of thinking that their property would sell, but ultimately found out that they waited 6 months and it didn't happen, or the buyer walked. So it's not a right, and therefore the time and expense of dealing with a short sale can sometimes put off a lot of sellers. Also, there's a negative credit impact for sellers because the bank is waiving a portion of their loan.
Okay. So then how would I know if I should proceed with a short sale?
I guess the first step would be to find out what the value of the property is in a current real estate market, the real value. And the person to tell you that is typically going to be a real estate agent. And that way you can find out exactly how much the property would sell for. Because if the property would sell for far less than what the loan amount is, a bank may not accept a short sale anyway. But that's really the first step, would be to reach out to a real estate agent, also to contact the lender themselves and to see whether the bank accepts short sales, whether they have a history of accepting short sales, whether that kind of discussion is even something that the bank would do, because again, it's not a right, the bank has to approve the short sale.
Okay. And how would I avoid all this?
Well, it'd be difficult if you're having a financial hardship. A short sale is really a good option because some of the other options have a much more harmful impact on your credit score. So a short sale would actually be, if the seller is willing to move, a short sale would be a good option. Obviously, another way to avoid it is to do a deed-in-lieu of foreclosure, which means that the seller is no longer involved with selling the property, but the bank then takes over selling the property. But that's a little bit more harmful of a credit hit.
How do these two impact your credit score?
Well, if we go down a scale with a foreclosure being the most harmful, the deed-in-lieu is the second most harmful because the bank is not only waiving or accepting a lower amount in release of its lien, but they're also having to sell the property. And that's just something that costs time and money. So the deed-in-lieu is a bit less harmful than a foreclosure, a bit more harmful than a short sale. A short sale, because the bank doesn't have to sell the property, they're simply waiving their lien, the bank is more willing to do that, and it's also less impactful for a seller.
Michael, can you please give me a short summary on the different options of short sales and deed-in-lieu?
Certainly. A short sale is when a bank accepts a lower amount under the loan in order to sell the property. And the bank does this because they don't have to sell the property. The seller has engaged a real estate agent to sell the property. So typically the bank will allow a shorter payoff or a short sale in order to release its lien on the property. And the drawbacks for the seller are that there's a credit hit and obviously the seller will no longer be living in that home. The benefits, however, are that the seller doesn't have to live under these mortgage terms that usually are too high to handle, or there's been some sort of financial hardship. So there are benefits to the seller in this case because the lien is waived and the home can sell, and the seller can simply move on and buy another property after a minimal credit hit.